What's up, everyone? Aaron Negler here with your Packers Daily Chat. The beginning of the legal tampering period. The NFL's 2019 league year about to begin on Wednesday. Legal tampering began today at noon. And Packer fans are already in a tizzy. They're ready to throw in the towel. The season's over. They haven't signed any overpriced free agents. Forget it. Going home. At least that's what some would believe reading my mentions earlier today. Some more level-headed commentary here in the comments at Cheesehead TV's YouTube channel, of course, because we only attract the best and the brightest from around the world. That's why we're here, dedicated to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide, even the ones freaking out. Hello to everybody in the comment section. All these teams overpaying, not worth near what they are making, John. I would tend to agree. Not every deal that has been agreed to today, I think, is an overpay, but a good deal of them, a good many of them. The Landon Collins is the headliner. Certainly 6 years at $84 million. Now, some of that is funny money. He probably won't see all of that, but that's a whole lot of cheddar for a guy who is talented, but certainly limited. And you have to think he had his eyes on Washington all along. It's the team he grew up cheering for because of his childhood idol, Sean Taylor, played safety in Washington. So I don't think the Packers were ever in on that. One interesting report from this morning was that the Packers were in on Malik Jackson, who ended up going to Philadelphia. 3 years, $30 million. That's an interesting note, simply because it would tell you that the Packers are looking to upgrade along that defensive line, rather than just being content to bring back Mo Wilkerson, which is still in play, undoubtedly. I do wonder if they're in on Malik, who could be signed right away. Sheldon Richardson becomes a free agent on Wednesday. I do wonder if they'll be talking to his representatives today. Richardson would be an instant upgrade over Wilkerson, and be a wrecking ball there in the middle of the line to go along with Clark and Daniels, etc., not to mention Lancaster and Lowry and what have you. $88 million for Nick Foles, to give you some kind of an idea of what the hell is going on in free agency today. $50 million guaranteed on that deal, by the way. That's a little crazy. Matthew with all caps saying, Earl Thomas, come on. I'll tell you what. Jane Slater with NFL Network putting it out there earlier that he is looking for a 2-year deal at $30 million. That is not unreasonable for a talent of the level of Earl Thomas. I'd make that phone call. Now, obviously, I don't think that the Packers will be alone in that regard. Sure sounds like he's priced himself out of Dallas's comfort zone, which is the team that he has been kind of beeline earmarked for throughout the offseason leading up to today. But that's not crazy money for a guy with that amount of talent. Now, obviously, he has had some injury issues the last few years, but when he's on the field, he's a big-time difference maker, and I don't hate that price point to bring him into the green and gold fold. I'm all in on the edge rusher Smith from Baltimore. Gregory, I thought that was an interesting note from Peter King in his Monday morning column, where he noted that the Packers had tried to trade for Zadarius Smith in the past. That's news. I mean, that had not been out there. And you have to think, with Milt Hendrickson coming over from Baltimore, he would definitely have intel on the kid. So I know the report was out there from Michael Cohen earlier last week or the week before that the Packers planned on being in that conversation. That's definitely something to watch. I don't think that's a deal that would get done today, but you never know. There have been some, what I think people would have considered wave 2, wave 3 type signings already today. So if teams like a guy, they're going to get on the phone, they're going to try and make that deal. And maybe Smith is one of those. Nags, do you believe all of this funny money being given out? Yeah, Travis, absolutely. Happens every year. And I've been saying to anyone who's been watching this here daily chat, especially early on in the process, there are teams with a boatload of cap space who will be blowing the Packers out of the water with their ability to maneuver and use a good chunk of change to lure in free agents. So this is always going to be the case. It's not really that surprising. If it was parting with 12 and 44 for OBJ, would I do it? I'd probably not both first rounders. I would definitely give up, say, 30, another pick this year and a pick next year, a premium pick next year to try and get it done. We'll see. Sure sounds like the Giants are listening. Djax to the Eagles, Sam, that does sound like it will be that is the foregone conclusion. The report is out there that that's where he wants to land. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not officially released him yet, supposedly trying to trade him, but you have to think it's only a matter of time before they do cut him and he does end up in Philadelphia. Any news on the resigning process? Scott, the only things that have really gotten out there so far are the Packers tendering some guys such as Fado Brown is back. Kumaro will be back on his one-year tender. So, but there haven't been any, as far as I can remember off the top of my head, I haven't heard any, pending free agents like Cobb, Matthews, Brashawn Breeland. None of those guys are imminent anyway. Although it was a nice note from Ryan Wood in his piece at PackersNews.com, noting that David Dunn and Clay Matthews' representative, or David Dunn, who is Clay Matthews' representative, was speaking to Russ Ball at the Combine about a potential return. Most likely letting Matthews hit free agency, but saying if you don't like what you see, here are the parameters of a deal we think works if he wants to come back to Green Bay, if he doesn't like what he sees in free agency. Any news on C.J. Mosley? Aiden, only that he will have a whole lot of suitors and that the Packers are not one of them. I really like him. I think paying him big money makes a lot of sense. He's a 3-down backer who would instantly upgrade the middle of your defense, but he's got 6-7 teams interested, and I haven't seen the Packers listed on any of that. Houston could be like Peppers was for us. John, I don't disagree. I don't know if he's quite if he quite elevates the Packers defense the way Peppers did across the board. But I do think he would be a big-time signing, and he would help immediately, immensely, so to speak. I've seen a lot of people suggesting signing Houston now that he's been cut and trading for D Ford. I would much rather just sign Houston and then go draft the next D Ford, somebody who hasn't had back surgery and who hasn't been up and down in his entire career. Get your own guy that you can bring in and mold, and chips fall where they may. Get Za'Darius Smith and trade for D Ford, TJ Hawkinson in the draft. That's one possibility. There are a number of combinations that you have to think the Packers will be working through. Again, I don't see the trade for D Ford, but it's a possibility, definitely. Cordell Patterson. There was a report out there from Tom Pelissero at NFL Network that the Packers may be interested, and the Bears seemingly may have some interest as well. I don't hate that idea, especially because the Packers have been abysmal in the kick return game for some time. Trevor Davis has shown flashes, but I don't think he's ever shown to actually be the answer there. And you can bring him in, use him kind of as you use Ty Montgomery as a bit of a jack-of-all-trades type. Use him kind of all over the formation, etc. Now, I don't want him taking away too many touches from Aaron Jones because we all know how that goes, but I don't hate it. Why is it rumored that the Packers are going after Ingram? I thought we already had a good 1-2 punch at running back. I said this on Twitter. The Ingram thing sure sounds like an agent trying to drum up a market. I don't think he's ever going to get much more than the $4 million he was making last year in New Orleans. More than anything, what that sounds like is an agent talking to the Packers representatives at the Combine, and the Packers going, yeah, if he's out there after a few weeks, we'd be interested. And then the agent turns around and goes, oh, the Packers are interested, and then he leaks that. I wouldn't put too much stock in that, especially early on in the free agency process. But hey, on the flip side, who really knows? Because if they're changing systems, which they certainly are, and they want a hammer of a back and they think Ingram's a major upgrade over Jamal Williams, if that's the determination they've made, maybe they want to go get a guy who can be the hammer to Aaron Jones' lightning, I doubt that's the case. I think it's much more likely that it's the first scenario, but you can't dismiss it out of hand. Let's check the old tweet machine, see what's going on. The old Twitter. Chase starts us off with Collins, Flowers, Brown, all gone. Do you think we are just making calls and hoping for the best with contract demands, or do they actually intend on signing a big talent? Well, Chase, big is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Just because a guy's got a big name doesn't mean that he's going to be a difference maker on your team. Look at Malik Jackson, who was released and now signed with Philly today. He's a guy who had a monster contract, coming off a Super Bowl victory in Denver. Went to Jacksonville and certainly did help their defense become pretty dominant and went to an AFC championship game, but now he's on another home. Those deals that are signed today, a good majority of them, those players will be on different teams and are cut after 2 years. So just because they don't sign somebody today or the next day and a half, 2 days, don't get despondent. Plenty of talent still available. Since the tampering period has begun, curious to know if Cheesehead TV will franchise tag Packerman or work for an extension to close out his career. Let me tell you, Packerman is going to be a Cheesehead TV member for life. We are working on a lifetime contract that rivals anything that Mark Davis has given to John Gruden. So stay tuned. AB must have really rubbed Gutekunst and company the wrong way if he went for a 3rd and a 5th and we didn't take him. I'd personally rather have OBJ. We'd have to pay a small fortune to get him. What say you? Well, Josh, I don't think it's necessary that he rubbed them the wrong way, so to speak, personally or whatever. I think you got to look past just the 3rd and the 5th round of draft compensation. You have to also look at the humongous amount of guaranteed money that he was handed. The Packers just made Aaron Rodgers the highest paid player in league history last year. They're not going to turn around and then give up draft capital and pay a guy a good chunk of change. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, OBJ, he's already been paid, and he has a contract in place that they would take on. That makes a little more sense. Now, you're still having to, allocate a good chunk of your salary cap to that player, but you also don't have the off-field baggage in the sense of blowing up a locker room the way AB did. Yes, OBJ has got his off-field stuff, but most of that is harmless, at least to my eyes. A lot of that is the stuff on the sideline, the kicking nets, what have you. It's a passionate guy who wants to win football games, to me, to my eyes. And he's a difference maker. He's a guy who would instantly tilt the field in the Packers, to the Packers' advantage. Pair him with Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Oh my goodness. Look out. Another Packers offseason doing nothing. Oh, Matt, it's been 4 hours. No, 5 hours now. Come on, Matt. We continue wasting the career of the best QB ever. I keep waiting for this to be like an Onion piece. As we prepare for another season finishing below 500, can't wait to draft another small school defensive player round 1. Road to 3-13 starts now. Tweet of the day, Packers Daily. Matt. There are just as many decaffeinated brands on the market that taste just as good as the real thing. I recommend exploring them. All right, let's head back over to the old live chat. Offensive line needs? Yes, there are. There's primarily a big gaping hole at the right guard position. They have some bodies there, but they definitely need to upgrade. I was sad to see Osemele go to the Jets in a trade. The word on the street was that the Raiders were going to cut him for salary cap reasons, and then the Jets swooped in and traded for him. I thought he would have been a great addition in free agency, but that's obviously off the board now. We'll see. We'll see if they what they do going forward to address the offensive line. My guess would be they look to the draft, but maybe they look later on in free agency. Zadarius Smith and Brian Burns would be elite. I think Zadarius Smith would be a upgrade. I don't ever see him being an elite player, but couple him with Burns, and yeah, they can make some noise. Everybody hates Nick Perry! Exclamation point. Is that a new show from Comedy Central? I would ask everybody to go and look at Tom Silverstein's piece at PackersNews.com a couple days ago in regards to Nick Perry and Jimmy Graham. And I'm not saying I agree with everything Tom put in that piece, but it was very much kind of against the grain, well thought out, brought up some good points that I hadn't considered when it came to Nick Perry. I just think it's a good read. To sum it up, Tom is basically saying that you look at the history of Perry's play in Green Bay, before and after he signed the deal, and then you look at the guys who are on offer in free agency who will most likely be in the Packers price range, not like Trey Flowers getting $1 billion from the Detroit Lions. I don't dismiss it out of hand. I think he makes some good points. I just encourage everyone to go read it. We could have traded Nick Perry to the Browns for Kevin Zeitler. Big missed opportunity there. Juju? No. The Browns were not trading for Nick Perry. No one's trading for a player who's been hurt and has that cap hit. This isn't fantasy football. You don't have guys in your, well, the Raiders do exist. Well, so maybe there's a team or two out there that would do it. But no one's trading for Nick Perry. Sorry, buddy. Do you think Lang could come back on a cheap deal even though he is a walking body cast? Oh, Steven, that's harsh. I'm pretty sure the plan is for TJ to retire. There's nothing official there. I'm sure he'll take his time and mull it over. I would be very surprised if he's playing in 2019. I think the tea leaves, reading them, sure point to him hanging them up. Now, maybe that's wrong, and maybe he ends up catching on someplace, but man, it's, I would think he's probably going to retire. Jordy Nelson reunion, perhaps. Trey, he's still signed with Oakland, and they're not releasing him. Packer fans are wild today. Is this a normal free agent thing every year? Yes. Is the Packers draft board based strictly on best player available regardless of position, or is it based on a position status? Mike, what they often do is build it by tiers, and they will have all the positions regardless of what their needs are. They will have the top quarterbacks separated by tiers, running backs, so tier 1, tier 2, basically a round grade. One's worthy of a first-round pick, one's worth a second-round pick, etc. And they will have a tier system where they will get down to, say, their pick the late first, and they'll look and see who they still have first-round grades on, if any are available, and then they'll move to the second round. And they will look at, certainly, what they need roster-wise, but first and foremost, they will look at who those best players are. But it's not strictly like a list that they go down and, we got to have an outside linebacker, or we got to have a center, or we got to have a wide receiver. That's not quite how it works. Kumaro is back. That should make your day, Nags. Man, I'm happy he's back. He showed some promise. I'm not ready to say that, wide receiver fixed, but yeah, he could do some exciting stuff. Could you see Richardson or Sue come to Green Bay next to Kenny Clark? That would be a force. Chris, I agree. I would be absolutely shocked if they brought in Ndamukong Suh. I think there's too much kind of bad blood there. And even though, yes, it's been a long time and water on the bridge, we're all professionals, etc., I just have a real hard time imagining they invite him into the locker room. Now, that said, Sheldon Richardson, I think that I said on Twitter earlier this morning, and I said a little bit earlier in this chat, the fact that they looked at Malik Jackson would suggest that they're looking to upgrade along their defensive line. Richardson would certainly be that for, kind of the reason you're saying there. You put him next to Kenny Clark, doggy. And then I think you would see a little bit more out of Mike Daniels as well. He'd be asked to do a lot less kind of taking up of blocks and much more getting up the field and using that quick first step to create some havoc in the backfield. I would, Richardson would be a great signing. I'm trying not to get excited by the idea because I don't think they're going to go there, but that would be wonderful. Since Pettine's defense seems to create more pressure from the middle, do you think jumping on a guy like Devin White would be a good idea? I love the idea of Devin White in Pettine's defense, and I love the idea of upgrading the middle, whether that's defensive line, whether that's inside linebacker, or whether that's safety. Madden always used to talk about it on the broadcasts. The best defenses are always strong up the middle, whether that's nose tackle, defensive tackle, inside middle linebacker, strong safety. You put that line up. That's strong up the middle. You make it tough in the middle. You make them have to work outside. And then you get your athletic guys out there. I'm all for that idea. And if Devin White is the best guy available on their board, I don't think they hesitate for a second to try and augment their defense for just that reason. Now, the one kind of question there is, does Gutekunst view inside linebacker the same way Thompson does as far as positional value? Because I don't think anybody with, any modicum of sense looking at Thompson's history and his treatment of that position would tell you, he devalued inside linebacker. He certainly seemed to anyway. And with Mike Pettine doing as much work as he did with 6-7 defensive backs at a time last year, I do wonder how much premium Gutekunst is going to put on the position. So, he went and traded for Morrison because he knew he needed a thumper after Jake Ryan got hurt. Word is from Rob Demovsky that the Packers and Ryan are talking about a possible return. But if you can get a talent like Devin White, I'm all for it. We're going to draft a free safety. Pac-Man Jake, I would tend to agree. You're looking at the market that's been set for safeties between Collins' deal and Vaccaro's deal a little while ago down in Tennessee. It's going to take a chunk of change to get one of these free agents in the door. I don't imagine the Gutekunst is going to want to pull that trigger. I think he's going to want to look at those edge guys like Za'Darius and Preston Smith, maybe even Ziggy Ansah. Who knows? Maybe Justin Houston, etc. But I think that's where the money's going to go. I think safety will be kind of focused possibly on the draft, but maybe later in free agency, that second, third wave. I hope they sign a punter in free agency just to see Banky's head explode. I'm down with that, man. Think the Packers have tried to trade Blake before having to pay him? There's a real kind of current of Packer fandom that wants Blake out the door or is predicting Blake out the door. I think Blake is a good football player, and you don't get better by getting rid of those. Will they have to pay him? Sure, but no more than, you have to pay anybody else. I mean, you got to pay somebody at some point. I don't understand the. And Matt, I'm not saying that so it's what you want. You're asking a question, but sure, I don't get any sense from the Packers that they're looking to move on from Blake Martinez. I think that's one of your core guys. Can you improve at inside linebacker? Sure, but get someone in there to pair with him to elevate his game even further. I don't think you have to ship him out. This idea that, oh no, we're going to have to pay him, so let's get rid of him and put in Oren Burks, who looked completely lost last year. I ain't down with that. Now, I say all that, and could they ship him out tomorrow? Sure. I don't see it, though. Would they really trade for Ford? Seems like Perry all over again. I get what you're saying because he had the big season, the productive season, just right before free agency, much like Perry did. But I think his history with Smith, the outside linebackers coach who came over from Kansas City, who was obviously good friends with Pettin, was instrumental in Ford having that breakout year. I think that, augments the idea a little bit. Like I said, I get what you're talking about. I think Ford's much more effective rushing the passer at this point than Perry is, but we'll see how they go there. I don't see them making that trade, but crazier things have happened. In free agency, I don't want anything sexy. All I want is a big fat right guard to protect Rodgers. I hear you there, John. Again, I do think they'll look to the draft to augment the offensive line, but maybe that second wave of free agency. There's that kid from Tennessee, the guard, who obviously was with LaFleur last year. Maybe they pull him in. But again, they've had good success finding guys in the draft, and I think that's where they'll go. Would Barr resonate as much bad blood as Sue? I don't know about as much, but certainly a little bit. A little bit. You insulted him? A little bit. Possibility of cutting Tramon Williams. I doubt it. I think, Tramon did everything you asked of him last year. Yes, he had his first season in forever without a turnover, but, he solidified your safety spot when he was signed up to play corner. And when he was at corner, he was pretty good. Yeah, could you save a little money? Sure, but why cut a guy just to save a little money? He's an asset to your football team. I don't see it. Tramon was trash. Michael, you need to watch the tape because that's ridiculous. Don't come in here with the toddler stuff, man. This is a grown-up talk. When do you think we will see any signing? As soon as I end this chat, because that's like the law. As soon as I get done with the chat, that's when the news breaks. So we'll wrap it up here in a little bit. When is the next transplants? Post-draft? No, there will be a transplants pre-draft because watching Corey Banky talk about the draft is high comedy. And that said transplants will only be available to those of you who purchase the Cheesehead TV Draft Guide. That's right, another little something for you. You get that draft guide, Cheesehead TV. It's dedicated to Packer fans. It is a draft guide constructed completely around Packer schemes, the Packers philosophies, and it's dedicated to Packers fans, for Packers fans, by Packers fans. It's, a pretty big chunk of work, sweat, toil. You can pre-order right now at cheeseheadtv.com on the homepage. And you get if you want an example of what you might get, we have last year's draft guide available for you to flip through. It'll be that plus so much more, including a draft guide special Packer transplants. So check it out. How long can we keep Kenny Clark a secret? I think the secret's out. When do I think Aaron Nagler is going to stop being so scared about facing Tom Grassi in Madden? Watch this space, kid. Nags. Okay, I'm signing off. Rappaport. Breaking news. Green Bay signs everyone. No doubt. Do you think we will go cheaper and get Spain? That's who I was talking about from Tennessee. I think he's a possibility. Like I said, he played guard for LaFleur. LaFleur knows him. Now, just because he played for him doesn't mean LaFleur is going to sign off and go, we got to go get this guy. But he could obviously help if LaFleur signs off and Gutekunst wants to pay whatever's necessary. I do think that's not going to be a first wave signing, though. He'll let them sit out there for a little bit. LaMarcus Joyner or Adrian Amos? I would take Amos of those two, definitely. And I think that I'll be interested to see what kind of money Amos gets, considering what Landon Collins just landed. I think it'll be significant because he's a very good player. Like to see them sign Breland back. Yeah, Mike, it's been a popular thought for Packers fans since the end of the season. I would welcome it, but I don't think they need to break the bank for the guy. If he's looking for a big payday, I think that will be elsewhere. Are Earl Thomas's recent injuries a red flag or worth the risk? It's hard to say they're a red flag. I mean, it's a broken leg, right? It's not like it's a nagging injury. It's just a snap of the bone and a violent hit, which he is prone to do. But is he worth the risk? If, like I said at the top of the chat, if what Jane Slater reported is true and he's looking for 2 years at $30 million, to me, that is worth the risk. Do you think it would be a good idea to draft another cornerback, especially if the Packers don't re-sign Breland? I do think they'll probably bring one in the draft, but I don't see them using a premium pick. I certainly don't see them using one on the first day, but you never know. If one is sitting there and it's the best value on the board, it's a possibility. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. But don't forget, and I'm going to keep reminding everyone, Tony Brown. Don't forget Tony Brown. He is good, and he's going to surprise some people next year, provided he keeps his head on straight and comes to work every day. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump, so expect breaking news at any minute. Thank you so much for joining me here, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We try to be wherever you guys are. Packers fans worldwide, we're dedicated to you. Hey, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends on Facebook, tell your friends on Twitter. We're here. I'm going to be here every day this week because it's free agency week, and obviously there's going to be tons to talk about with the Packers making so many free agent moves. Sorry. But yes, I will be. I'll be here every day, Monday through Friday this week. It's an in-season week here at Cheesehead TV because, hell, there's going to be a lot to talk about. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.